What is going on, everybody? Gamers Goon here today for Week 7 college football predictions. It seems like it's going by fast. And we come on here every single week and we pick every single game every single week. Let's get into Week 7. Week 6 was crazy. Let's get over to the new rankings. Yes, I know there is no Texas or Penn State on here. And quite honestly, they don't deserve to be on here. Penn State, ask them how it feels to lose to a winless UCLA. And let's go ask Texas what it feels like to lose to that Florida team. Now, granted, Florida's played some tough opponents so far, but a one-win Florida team. Until either Penn State or Texas beat somebody notable, I can't have them in the top 25. It is that point of the year that we cannot be looking at the preseason judgments of these teams or the roster talent of these teams. What have you done lately? And Texas did not look good against Ohio State, and I kind of was giving them the benefit of the doubt there. They lost to Florida. That's a big second red flag. And then on top of that, with Penn State, back-to-back losses. Haven't played anybody on top of that. No trademark win. You see some teams on this that have moved up. Like USF, they have a Florida State win. And that's really good for them. Florida State is a 2-loss team, and I still have them in the top 20 because they lost to Alabama, who continues to look better and better. And then Florida State also lost to Virginia, who is skyrocketed in my rankings because of how crazy this week was. And Virginia just knocking off team after team. Florida State, Louisville, they did have a hiccup earlier in the season, but Virginia's starting to figure things out, and that quarterback over there looks pretty darn good. But this is my updated top 25. We will shortly get in to the new rankings or new feature games of the week. But we're going to start it off with the quick picks. We got midweek action this week. Midweek action this week, believe it or not. Let me change the color because we did this color last week as well. Let's do a yellow. Let's do a yellow. There we go. Bruins, UCLA. We're going to make it a UCLA color. But we got midweek games this week. Wednesday, Missouri State going up against Middle Tennessee. Not one that I particularly have vested interest in. Think it'll be close. Neither team really that great. Missouri State wins that one 21-20. Next, we get to Liberty versus UTEP, and I am going with Liberty to win that one 27-21. Should be an interesting little game there. Then we get to Thursday. We do have some more games on Thursday than we do Wednesday. Thursday, we got Louisiana Tech going up against Kennesaw State at Kennesaw, but Kennesaw is going to drop it 24-21 LA Tech. Eastern Carolina going up against Tulane. Tulane wins that one pretty comfortably 35-17. Jacksonville State going up against Sam Houston. Two interesting middle-of-the-pack teams kind of in their conferences. I'm leaning Jackson State 24-20. Next, we got Southern Miss going up against Georgia Southern. And I have Southern Miss coming out victorious on that one. And let's just wrap up the Friday slate before I get to my feature game. Spoiler alert, we do have a feature game on Friday. Fresno State versus Colorado State, though, is not the feature game. Fresno State will win 24-21. Two very, confusing teams there. And then also we got Rutgers versus Washington, which Washington should win. I thought Washington was going to lose this week. They ended up pulling it out. But Washington's going to win this one as well. This one's going to be 28-17. Next, we are going to get into our first feature game of the week. And you might be like, why are we talking about USF and North Texas? Because we only go over 5 games, and you're probably sitting there thinking, well, we have the Oklahoma versus Texas game later this week. We have this big game this week. I had a few. Michigan USC's this week, right? I put stars next to all the games that would usually be games we talked about. But kind of like college game day and big noon kickoff, right? Like, If you don't perform, it can get yanked away from you. And Texas not showing up this week, I'm not talking about them as a feature game. We're talking about a game here that could be your group of 5 representative in the college football playoffs. And that's kind of where my mindset is transitioned to as we get further along in this season, is who could we be seeing in the playoff. And when I have teams right now like Penn State, who will probably have to win out to get there, or Texas, who's playing in a tough SEC, playoffs aren't necessarily on the top of my mind with those teams. However, a team like North Texas and USF, both of them should start to think, how are we going to position ourselves to be playing in the playoffs and playing in January most specifically. Now, both of these teams, really good. North Texas puts up tons of points. Their lowest scoring game of the year, they put up 33 against Western Michigan. South Florida, obviously, they've been really solid. Their only loss against Miami, who looks like, hey, actually, let me show you what they look like. They're the number 1 team in the country right now, if you ask me. They're just dominating teams. And they're not just dominating teams. They're dominating good teams. Miami looks really good. South Florida, I think they're a really good football program. North Texas, they're going to score quite a bit. At the time of this recording, because I did want to get a jump on this, it's literally like 1 a.m. as I am recording this. There is no line for this specific game. I think 2 of the 5 games for the futures, we do have a spread. But this one should be high scoring. I expect there to probably, if whatever the line is, I would probably take the over. North Texas likes to score. That's kind of their mojo, is trying to outscore you. Now, USF, a better defense than probably what UNT is used to, but you're not going to hold North Texas scoreless. I still have it being a high-scoring game. I got it being 45-38. I really like South Florida to win this one, but I think North Texas is going to make this a game on Friday night. It's a great Friday night game, if you ask me. 2 teams, one in USF that has already kind of proven themselves as a team to watch out for, and a team here in North Texas that's kind of been looking for a way in to national, like, to be noticed nationally. This is a team here in North Texas that can score and can score quickly. Do they have what it takes to stop USF? And what for USF, they've played in some games that are low scoring. They've been able to kind of have defensive slugfest. They've been able to have shootouts. They've kind of had it all. How uncomfortable does USF make UNT in this game? I'm leaning USF to win this one, 45-38, like I said, but I think it's going to be a real fun game. Next, we are going to get back on to the Saturday slate. The Saturday slate, we have a ton of games to get through. Miami, Ohio versus Akron. I got Miami, Ohio winning a close one, 21-17. We get UCLA, like I said, coming off their victory over Penn State. I have them following it up with another victory, 28-24 over Michigan State. Next, we get Houston versus Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, man, just does not look good. Houston, 28-17 in that one. Charlotte versus Army. Charlotte, another team, not looking very good. Army wins that one, 24-14. Next, we get to Louisiana going up against James Madison. James Madison should win that one. 28-17 is my line there. Next, we get Toledo versus Bowling Green. That's an easy Toledo victory for me. 24-14 in that one. Pitt versus FSU. FSU, like I said, still ranked, still a good team. I have FSU winning that one, 35-24. And let's get over to yet another feature game of the week. And this one is going to be Alabama versus Missouri. Alabama, hey, I'll go back. I was doubting Alabama after losing to Florida State. They followed it up by an impressive win against Georgia and an impressive win against Vanderbilt. It wasn't like the Vanderbilt game was like, oh, they pretty much, I mean, early on, it looked like maybe Vanderbilt had their number, but after halftime, Alabama had it figured out. They had Diego Pavia's number after halftime, and that was really something that impressed me. Is I thought this game would be closer. Granted, it's Alabama probably kind of returning to old form of this team that could be top 5. But I expected a little bit more out of Vandy, I'm not going to lie. And then you get Missouri, who's been one of the pleasant surprises of this season. And that's all because of their quarterback, Bo Pribula, who is the guy that was the backup to Drew Aller. And I'm kind of curious whether or not Penn State fans are kind of wishing they had this guy, right? Because Bo Pribula, not to throw any shots at Drew Aller, Bo Pribula has been great. This dude's been phenomenal. I don't really know who to describe him like and compare him to. But a name that kind of pops to mind in terms of like moxie and how he carries himself and how he kind of leads this Missouri team is similar to Diego Pavia, to be honest with you, where like sure the team was solid, but this guy just brings some sort of juice to this team that, you know what, maybe Missouri is a team we could be watching out for come December and January for the playoffs. But I got some bad news from Missouri today. Alabama looks like the team we thought Alabama could be. That Florida State game, I think, is more of an oddity rather than the truth. You saw a little bit more of Alabama here the last 2 weeks and what they've been able to do. Alabama's going to be fine. Alabama should win this one. I got it being close just because I do respect Missouri. Could potentially get out of hand even though. But we are going to lead. We are going to lean there to Alabama winning that one 31-24. All right, let's get back to more quick picks. And we're going to UCF versus Cincy. Shout out to Cincinnati getting ranked. In my poll, maybe not the AP, but they are ranked in my poll. Cincinnati 31-24 in that one. Next we get Stanford versus SMU. SMU should have an easy day there, 38-10. Washington State versus Ole Miss. Ole Miss really been impressive. Chambliss. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing the guy's name right. Chambliss. Their QB though has been really good. And he's the backup to Simmons. So that guy, I wouldn't move him. Let him go out there and dominate Wazoo, 42-13. Northern Illinois versus EMU. You know I love to predict these NIU low-scoring games, and that's what I'm going to give you, 17-10 Northern Illinois. UMass versus Kent State. Another low scorer. UMass, I have them winning. Sure, why not? 21-17. App State versus Georgia State. We have the reverse. We have Georgia State winning that one 21-17. Wake Forest versus Oregon State. Man, Oregon State, when are you going to get it, man? I don't think Wake Forest is the team that they are going to beat, though. I got Wake Forest winning 28-21. And because I kind of skip around, the next one that popped up was Indiana, but we're not talking about them next. We'll get a few more games in and then go to the Ohio State game, though. Northwestern versus Penn State. Tough luck. Running into Penn State after 2 big letdowns. You can ask Drew Aller all you want if they're chasing the playoffs. Obviously, he's going to say yes, but Penn State needs a big week, 38-14 in that one. TCU versus KSU. We got TCU winning a close one. KSU has tendencies to play a little bit close for some reason. TCU wins 38-31. Air Force versus UNLV. We got UNLV winning that one 27-17. NC State versus Notre Dame. Notre Dame wins that one comfortably, and that's how it looks like for Texas and for Penn State. I want you to take notes from Notre Dame. They've had 2 losses, and ever since those 2 losses, they've been dominant. That is how you make the playoffs if you have 2 losses right now for either of those teams. You have to be perfect from here on out. But Notre Dame, give it to me. Virginia Tech versus Georgia Tech. We're taking Georgia Tech 35-23. Should be a fun game there. All right, now let's get over to Ohio State versus Illinois. Big noon kickoff, I believe, will be in Champaign for this one. It should be a fun game. You're hoping that it doesn't turn into the Indiana game from a few weeks ago, right? kind of an oddity there. We're missing some corners, and you kind of snowball effect, and you lost big. If you're Illinois, you lost big, right? I tend to believe that Indiana's not 53 points better than Illinois. They were on that day. You go out, you beat USC, you build some momentum, you beat Purdue, obviously. Now you have another chance to prove yourself. Ohio State at home. This is a game you got to show up for. And I've kind of been waiting for the Ohio State game where they kind of fall asleep a little bit. How's it happened? It's happened kind of in spurts a little bit, I guess, but you haven't really been able to catch Ohio State on an off day. I don't think Illinois will. Tough. I might attend this game. I don't really know if I will or not. If ticket prices go down, I probably will. But this is a game. Illinois, you have the home crowd. There's going to be a field rush if you win. Ohio State, though, I got them winning 38-21. The spread's 13.5. It's a tough game here for Illinois. I just don't see a scenario right now that Illinois can win this game without forcing multiple turnovers from Sayan or just making Ohio State play uncharacteristically. All right, next we are getting into Oklahoma versus Texas. I have Texas winning that one 28-21. Like I said, was a potential feature game. It got bumped. Next, we got Old Dominion going up against Marshall. We got Old Dominion winning that one 28-17. Nebraska going up against Maryland. Maryland, you should have beat Washington, man. Maryland wins that one 27-24. Iowa State versus Colorado. Iowa State should win that one. I know Iowa State lost. Bounced them down a little bit in my ranking. I don't even think they're in my top 25. I think I moved them to 26 because I do top 30. Yeah, I think I moved them all the way out of the top. Yeah, they're out of the top 25. But either way, they should win this game. Colorado hasn't really impressed me. Iowa State, you need to bounce back week. 35-24. Ball State versus Western Michigan. Ball State wins that one 21-17. Navy versus Temple. Navy wins 24-21. Arkansas versus Tennessee. Tennessee win big 42-13. UAB versus FAU. We're going FAU to win that one 28-21. We get Florida versus Texas A&M. Florida coming off a big win. Don't think they work magic twice in a row. A&M wins that one 35-21. Next, after that one, we get to Iowa versus Wisconsin. Low scoring, kind of a slugfest. I got it 13-10. I don't think it's going to be that offensive. Next, we are getting into another feature game. This one's Arizona State versus Utah. Two teams with Big 12 championship hopes could potentially see the winner in this game. I have been really high on both of these teams. Arizona State came into the year, I was super high on them. Obviously, they had their loss, and I was like, well, maybe we need to calm it down a little bit on Arizona State. And then I moved them back in to my top 25. I'm not very forgiving with my rankings, as you saw. I'm not afraid to move people all the way out if they don't perform in my top 25. Arizona State's worked their way back in. Utah at one point was in. Now they're out. They are still hanging around in the top 30, though. This is a big game. These are two teams that I feel like are on similar levels. I'm going to be honest. My pick came down to home field advantage. My pick came down to just having the crowd in your corner. I think this is a coin flip. I really do. I see two great QBs here. Dan Pierre's looked really good at Utah, and then obviously Sam Leavitt last year and this year has been pretty solid. Jordan Tyson's been really good. Malik Brown's had a good stretch the last couple weeks. Utah, obviously, a team that I have a lot of respect for. I think they could probably turn this into a defensive slugfest if they wanted to. I have it being an interesting middle of the score range. I got Utah winning a close one here, 27-24. I think it's going to be one of those kind of slugfest. You're going to throw a hit here, a hit there. It's not going to be super offensive. It's not going to be super defensive. Kind of like the Oregon Penn State game about a week or two ago. I just don't see these two teams like slugging it out like heavy numbers wise. But this is going to be a good game. This is going to be a good game. I'll be watching it. I'm riding with Utah simply because they'll have the home crowd in their corner. But yeah, this is going to be a fun one. This one is going to be fun. There's no line right now on it, but I'm excited. Next, we get to San Jose State going up against Wyoming. San Jose State wins 24-17. Next, we get Louisiana Monroe versus Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina 21-17. Next, we get Rice versus UTSA. UTSA is going to win that one 31-24. Michigan versus USC. It was one that was starred as like maybe we talk about it. Ultimately, didn't give it to them. USC is coming off a loss. I know they had a bye, but they are coming off the Illinois loss. 21-17, though, for Michigan. Make them play a game that they're not used to at USC. Purdue versus Minnesota. Minnesota wins that one, 35-24, awkward scoreline. Georgia versus Auburn, another game that I marked as a potential talking feature game. Ultimately didn't go with it, but 35-17 for Georgia. Kansas versus Texas Tech. Sorry, Kansas. You know I like Kansas, but 38-21. Texas Tech's really good. South Carolina going up against LSU. Another potential one there, but two-loss South Carolina team. 27-21 for LSU. BYU versus Arizona. You know I love me some BYU, and they win 28-24. Troy versus Texas State. Kind of a low score, 24-17 for Texas State. Then we get New Mexico going up against Boise. Boise comfortably wins 35-17. We'll wrap it up with the last two and then head on over to Indiana, Oregon. We got San Diego State going up against Nevada. San Diego State wins 31-13. And then we got Utah versus Hawaii. Utah wins 38-21. Then we're going to wrap it up here with Indiana and Oregon, my apologies. This is going to be a good game. Curt Cignetti this year has been, last year he was a really great coach, right? He flipped Indiana around, and we got to see them in the playoffs, and we saw what they did to Illinois already this season. They looked the part. They did have a hiccup after the Illinois game where it looked like maybe they'd lose, but we'll see here really what both of these teams are made of. Because now there's some doubt creeping into my head as an Oregon fan. Now, yeah, if you don't believe me as an Oregon fan, like I'm literally wearing the grass is damn green in Eugene shirt. Shout out to our boy Dan Lanning. But there's some doubt. There's some doubt creeping in my head. I looked at last week. I was really high coming off of the win, right? Like you're coming off the win, you're at like an ultimate high. No, nothing can take you down. Nothing can knock you off your pedestal. And then you kind of see Penn State collapse against UCLA this week, and it starts to creep into your head. What if Penn State's just not that good? But you could say the same thing about Indiana, right? They had a big, impressive win against Illinois. And I was kind of sitting there, what if Illinois is not that good? And then they beat USC. Sometimes it's just not your day. And I think that's what happened to Penn State today. But it could be a situation that comes Saturday in Autzen, you get to play yet another one of these games that turns into a slugfest between Indiana and yourselves. I don't think this is going to be a Oregon stomping. It's 13.5 points for Oregon. They might have a double-digit win. I think this is going to be one, though, that is going to be one in the trenches. Indiana's respectable in the trenches. They can win there if they need to. But looking at it, last week, I looked at Oregon and saw one of, if not the best defensive lines in college football. Granted, some of that took a hit this week when you saw UCLA also play pretty well against Penn State, right? But I think some of that is they had to travel across country off a broken spirit of losing a close whiteout game, right? Like, it is what it is. Oregon, you get to stay at home. You're coming off a bye. You were practicing all bye week, getting ready, shaping up for this Indiana game. I think Oregon will be fine here, but it is a spot that Indiana. Reminder with Indiana, they're number 8. They're number 8 in the poll. If you come into this game and you're Oregon and you let Indiana win at the line of scrimmage both on the offensive and defensive side, I think Indiana can get the job done and win this game. However, I look at this Oregon team and this offensive line. I look up and down the offensive line, Emmanuel Prignon. I look at Alex Harkey. I look at Isaiah World. I look at Poncho, right? All these guys that are probably NFL players. David Yulee. All these guys. Tons of experience, probably going to the pros. I trust them on the offensive line. I look at the defensive line. And I thought, you know what? There's some inexperience there, right? Amari Washington, Aiden Breland, Elijah Rushing, right? Ashton Porter, all these guys. Mateo's there, Tatum's there, right? But at the end of the day, I think Mateo's one of the best, if not the best, defensive lineman in the country. He was the best defensive lineman on the field against Denai Dennis Sutton, who's pretty darn good, first-round prospect. So what I am getting at by that is I think if Indiana were to win, it would be in the trenches. However, I do not see a world where they win in the trenches. I just can't. I can't get there. And maybe that's my Oregon bias getting to me. It might be. Let me know down below who you're taking in this game, what your scoreline is. At the end of the day, I saw Dante Moore walk into a wideout environment and win. I saw what it meant to Dante Moore when he was hugging his coach after the game. I saw De'Aaron Hill and Jordan Davison step up as true freshmen in a wideout game at Penn State on the road. Like, biggest moments of their careers, and it's just their freshman year. I saw DeCorian Moore, potentially the best offensive player in that Penn State game. I just do not know if that Oregon team that showed up for that Penn State game loses to this Indiana team. But then again, how good is that Penn State team? That's just going to be a question that's on the back of our heads. So we'll see. But I am rocking with Dan the Man. I am rocking with Dante Moore. I'm rocking with all the guys, right? We're going Oregon to win. 35-24. They will not cover. But this is going to be a tight, fun game. I think Oregon kind of make it look a little bit like 35-24 is not a great, like, it's not necessarily close, but I think Oregon kind of might get like a late touchdown to kind of push the lead out of the and make it a little bit easier. But either way, I'm looking forward to this upcoming week. Should be a fun one. You guys will be seeing this Sunday at some point, probably while the first NFL game is getting started. Shout out to Dylan Gabriel getting his first career start, by the way. But yeah, we're gonna keep on chugging along each and every single week. Thank you for watching, and once again, let me know down below who you think will win this week. And please like, subscribe, and do all that fun stuff. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.